They shared the same blood, but not the same heart. One twin was light, calm, kind, always seeing the good in others. The other was dark, proud, fiery, and always needing to prove she was right. Their classmates called them day and night, not because of their color, but because of how differently they treated the world. One healed with words, the other hurt with them. But when a strict teacher forced them to work together on a school project, the war between their hearts began. Ego, silence, jealousy. Everything collided in one classroom. What they didn't know was that this project would reveal more than grades. It would reveal truth. Because sometimes the person we fight the hardest is the one who holds a piece of us we've been missing all along. The morning sun spilled softly through the tall classroom windows, painting golden streaks on the old wooden desks. The chatter of students filled the air, laughter, whispers, and the soft clatter of pens tapping nervously against books. Mrs. Silva, the science teacher everyone both respected and feared, stood near the front, clipboard in hand. "All right, everyone," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "This term's science project will be done in pairs." A collective gasp and ripple of whispers followed. Some smiled hopefully at their friends. Others exchanged worried looks. But all that stopped when Mrs. Silva added, "And I'll be choosing the pairs myself." Disappointment buzzed across the room. Eyes darted toward the board, where names were being written. But when the teacher finally said, "Luna and Sol, you'll be partners," the class went completely silent. Luna, the white twin, gentle, soft-spoken, with hair the color of sunlight and eyes that always search for peace. Sol, her opposite, dark-skinned, sharp-minded, confident, her voice always a little louder, her presence impossible to ignore. They looked at each other across the room, and the air between them froze. They weren't enemies, but they weren't friends either. Mrs. Silva smiled knowingly, sensing the tension. "Sometimes," she said softly, "working with someone different helps us see ourselves more clearly." But Sol crossed her arms, looking away. "I don't need clarity," she muttered. Luna heard it, but said nothing. She just smiled politely, as always. When the bell rang, the students spilled out into the hallway, laughing and gossiping about their partners. Luna walked slowly, holding her notebook to her chest. Sol followed, but with long, confident strides. "Let's get one thing straight," Sol said, spinning around to face her sister halfway down the hall. "I'll do the speaking part. You handle the boring research. You like reading, right?" Luna blinked slowly, her soft eyes meeting Sol's fiery stare. "You mean the real work?" she said gently, but her tone carried quiet confidence. Sol smirked, not realizing how much those words would echo later. "Exactly. You read, I lead. Deal." Luna hesitated, not because she disagreed, but because she was tired of always agreeing. Still, she nodded. "Sure." They walked the rest of the way in silence. The hallway felt longer than usual, and even the air between them seemed to hum with unspoken feelings. At home, Sol began sketching ideas for project's presentation board. She imagined applause, attention, praise, things she'd grown used to. Meanwhile, Luna sat by her window, flipping through science books, jotting down notes under the soft light of her desk lamp. But what started as research turned into reflection. Every paragraph she read about teamwork, communication, and harmony made her think of her sister, how they used to laugh as kids, how they used to finish each other's sentences. Somewhere along the way, pride had replaced laughter. As Luna wrote her thoughts, one line stood out. "Teamwork isn't about power, it's about presence." She underlined it twice. That night, as Sol scrolled through her phone, Luna whispered to herself, "Maybe this project isn't about school at all. Maybe it's about us." Days passed quickly. Luna worked late into the night, researching, drawing models, designing charts. Sol, confident she could improvise, barely touched her notes. On the presentation day, Luna carried all materials to class, folders, posters, and a small model they built together, mostly her. Sol arrived late, smiling, unaware that her lack of effort had already begun to show. The teacher looked impressed by the materials, but before Luna could explain, Sol stepped forward. "I'll take it from here," she said loudly. Luna froze, again in her sister's shadow. But when Soul began to speak, the class stared blankly. Her confidence cracked under the weight of unpreparedness. She stumbled over her own words. For the first time, Soul's pride met silence. And Luna, calm, quiet Luna, stepped in. Gently. She explained the experiment, the method, the purpose, the teamwork. Her voice was steady, soft, but strong. By the end, the class erupted in applause, not for Soul, not for Luna, but for both. Yet as the clapping echoed, Soul couldn't help but notice. The sound of success felt different when shared. The applause from yesterday still echoed faintly in Soul's memory. Not like a victory, but like a reminder. She had always loved attention, but this time it felt different. The claps didn't sound like hers. They sounded like theirs. She sat in class, pretending to scroll through her phone, pretending not to think. Luna sat 2 desks away, quietly sorting charts and notes, her gentle focus glowing in the light. They hadn't spoken since the presentation. Mrs. Silva's voice floated through the room. Remember, real teamwork isn't about who leads. It's about who listens. The words landed like a whisper only Luna heard. So kept her gaze fixed on her phone, but her chest felt tight. She didn't want to admit it, but maybe Mrs. Silva wasn't just teaching science anymore. When the bell rang, Luna approached slowly. "Hey, good work yesterday," she said softly. Soul's lips twitched into a half smile. "You mean your work?" Luna blinked. "Our work, Soul." Soul grabbed her bag, her tone sharper than she meant. "You don't have to pretend. Everyone saw who carried it." She walked away, her words heavy with something deeper than anger. Fear. Fear of being second. Fear of being unseen. Later at home, Luna placed their project folder on the table. Their mother smiled. "You both made me proud." Luna smiled back, but Soul barely looked up from her phone. The air between them was filled with unspoken words, gratitude, jealousy, love, all trapped behind their pride. That night, Luna opened her notebook, writing thoughts she couldn't say aloud. "She doesn't hate me. She just hates how small she feels beside me." Across the room, Soul glanced at her sister in the lamplight, her shadow stretching long across the wall. She didn't know what Luna was writing, only that she wished she could write back. The rain tapped softly against the glass, steady, soothing, like it was trying to speak the words they couldn't. Luna closed her notebook and turned to her sister. "Do you ever think about why we stopped being close?" she asked gently. Soul looked up, startled. "What do you mean?" Luna's voice stayed soft. "We used to finish each other's sentences. Now we can't even finish a conversation." Soul scoffed lightly, but her voice cracked. "People change, Luna." "No," Luna said, her eyes lowering. "People hide." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick, filled with everything they wanted to say, but didn't know how. Suddenly, Luna's phone buzzed, a message from Mrs. Silva. The science fair team was impressed. "You're invited to present at the district level next week. Congratulations." Luna looked up. "We got selected." Soul's eyes widened. "What?" "The district competition. We're in." For a moment, pride flickered in Soul's eyes again, but so did fear. "You think we can handle that?" Luna smiled faintly. "We already did once. Maybe we just need to do it together this time." Soul laughed nervously. "You say that like it's easy." Luna looked at her, calm but firm. "It's not easy. It's honest." That night, Soul couldn't sleep. She lay staring at the ceiling, hearing Luna's words replay again and again. "We just need to do it together." In the quiet dark, she whispered to herself, "Together, maybe that's what I've been running from." The next morning, the rain had stopped. Soul stood before the mirror, seeing her own reflection. Not the confident girl she showed the world, but the tired one beneath it, the one who missed her sister. She brushed her hair back, took a deep breath, and stepped out. In the kitchen, Luna was already there, pouring 2 cups of tea. Soul paused and smiled. "Save me one." Luna looked up, surprised but smiling. "Always." And just like that, the silence that had divided them began to melt, not with big words, but with something smaller, truer, and stronger. Presence. The distance between them hadn't disappeared. but for the first time, it felt bridgeable. Thunder rolled through the quiet halls as the last students hurried home. Only 2 desks were left occupied, Luna's and Sol's. The air smelled of wet chalk and rain. Mrs. Silva's voice echoed faintly from the corridor, reminding them, "The regional fair is in 2 days. Make sure your experiment is ready." Then the door shut, leaving silence, a silence that felt alive. Luna glanced up from her notebook. "So, we should finalize a model tonight." But Sol didn't answer. She was staring at the project board, jaw tight, fingers gripping the edge until her knuckles turned white. "You already finalized it, didn't you?" she muttered, voice low. Luna blinked. "What do you mean?" Sol turned sharply. "You don't need me. You never do." Her words hit the air like glass shattering. Luna stood slowly, her calm composure cracking for the first time. "That's not true. I've been waiting for you to care, Sol." "Care?" Sol laughed bitterly. "You mean follow your way? Sit quietly while you decide everything? You think being quiet makes you right." Rain slammed harder against the window. Luna's voice trembled, but she didn't back down. "And you think being loud makes you a leader?" For a moment, neither spoke. The classroom seemed to breathe between them, a pulse of hurt, ego, and memories of laughter long lost. Sol took a deep breath, eyes glistening under the flickering light. I hate that you make it look so easy. Everyone loves you for being kind. I'm never enough." Luna's notebook slipped from her hand, pages fluttering to the floor like feathers. She walked closer, slow, hesitant. "So you're enough. You just keep trying to prove it instead of feeling it." The words hung there, soft, true, and unbearable. Sol looked away, eyes burning. "You sound just like Mom," she whispered. "Always telling me to calm down, to listen, to be better." "Maybe I don't want to be better." Lightning flashed. For a split second, Luna saw the reflection of herself in her sister's eyes. Same pain, different armor. She took another step forward. "We're twins, Sol. That doesn't mean we have to mirror each other. It means we're half of something bigger, but only if we stop fighting ourselves." Sol's voice cracked. "And if I can't?" Luna smiled sadly. "Then I'll keep trying, until you remember who we are." Outside, the thunder softened. The rain became a rhythm, steady, cleansing. Sol looked down at the project, their names written side by side in bright marker. For the first time, she didn't see competition. She saw a reflection. The next morning, the school smelled of wet earth and new beginnings. Luna arrived early, setting the project on a display table, a sleek, shining model about solar energy and unity. Every wire, every label, perfectly in place. She brushed a strand of hair behind her ear and sighed. Footsteps echoed from the doorway. Sol stood there, eyes red, holding 2 cups of coffee. "One with extra sugar," she said softly. Luna smiled, surprised. "You remembered." "I never forgot," Sol replied, her voice trembling. They stood in silence, the kind that didn't hurt anymore. Then Sol walked closer, placing the second cup on the table beside the project. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "Kept thinking about what you said, about presence." Luna looked up, eyes bright. "And—" Sol laughed quietly. "And maybe teamwork isn't about who leads. It's about who shows up." The first rays of sun touched their faces. Luna nodded. "Then let's show up together." For the first time, Sol didn't hesitate. She reached for the project, fixing a loose wire. "You know," she said, smirking, "the model could use a stronger foundation." Luna chuckled. "Maybe that's true for us too." The door opened, and Mrs. Silva entered, smiling. "Early bird today?" Sol grinned. "We wanted to make sure it's perfect." Mrs. Silva studied them for a moment. 2 sisters standing shoulder to shoulder, the light between them soft and whole. "It already is," she said warmly. As the regional fair began, students filled the hall. Cameras flashed, laughter filled the air. But for Luna and Sol, the real victory wasn't applause. It was understanding. When the judges passed their table, Luna let Sol take the lead. Sol spoke with confidence, but this time, her voice carried warmth not pride. Luna stood beside her, nodding, her calm presence grounding every word. When the final bell rang and their names were announced as winners, Sol didn't raise her arms in triumph. Instead, she turned to Luna and whispered, "We did it." Luna smiled. "No, we became it." Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds, scattering gold across the schoolyard. The twins walked out together, their laughter soft but free, a sound the world had missed. The applause still echoed, long after the hall had emptied. Sol stood at the edge of the stage, the trophy cold in her hands. It was supposed to feel like victory, but instead, it felt like silence. The kind of silence that hums behind your ribs and asks questions you don't want to answer. Luna was beside her, smiling softly, her eyes reflecting both pride and something deeper, something Sol couldn't name. "You did great," Luna said gently. Sol turned to her, forcing a laugh. "We did great." But even as she said it, the words didn't fit right in her mouth. They sounded practiced, hollow, like an echo of something that used to mean more. The hall lights flickered as the janitor swept away pieces of confetti. Mrs. Silva approached, her heels clicking softly against the floor. "Congratulations, girls," she said, eyes warm. "You've proven that teamwork works better than competition." Sol nodded, smiling politely, but her chest tightened again, the same ache that had followed her since the project began. The kind that whispered, was it really teamwork if she had only learned to hide behind it? As they left the hall, Luna carried the project model carefully in her hands. Sol followed, clutching the trophy. Each step echoed with the faint hum of everything they hadn't said. Outside, the evening light was soft and golden. The crowd had thinned. Students laughed. Parents congratulated. Someone called out, "Hey, Twins of the Year," and they both laughed, but it felt like the sound belonged to someone else. In the quiet walk home, Sol's thoughts grew heavy. For the first time, she wondered if her sister's calm had always been strength, and her own pride had just been fear wearing armor. Hours passed. The night outside hummed softly. Distant cars, a barking dog, the faint hum of streetlights. Sol couldn't sleep. The trophy gleamed faintly from the shelf, almost mocking her. She stared at it for a long time before finally whispering, "It should have been yours." Luna looked up from her notebook, her expression unreadable. "What do you mean?" Sol's voice trembled. "You did the real work. Luna." "I took the credit. You carried us, and I just stood there." Luna closed her notebook slowly, then turned to face her sister. "No, Sol, you stood with me. That's what mattered." Sol shook her head. "You're just saying that because you're nice." Luna smiled faintly. "No, I'm saying it because I finally understand something. The project wasn't about science. It was about us. I built the model, but you built the bridge." The words hit Sol like a wave she didn't see coming. She blinked, tears blurring her vision. "The bridge." Luna nodded. "You brought us back. Your pride may have hurt, but it also made me stronger. It pushed me to speak, to stand up. You taught me to stop hiding behind calm." For a long time, they sat in silence, but it wasn't the heavy kind. It was warm, healing like the air after rain. Then Luna stood, walked to the shelf, and picked up the trophy. She turned it over in her hands, the gold reflecting faint glimmers of moonlight. "You know," she said softly, "this doesn't belong to either of us. It belongs to who we became." She placed it gently on the windowsill, where dawn's first light would touch it by morning. Sol wiped her eyes, laughing quietly. "You always find a poetic answer, don't you?" Luna chuckled. "Maybe, but sometimes poetry is just truth wearing softer clothes." The night stretched quietly around them. Outside, the rain clouds had cleared, revealing stars, tiny, patient lights that had been there all along. Sol whispered, "Thank you, Luna." "For what?" "For not giving up on me." Luna smiled. "We don't give up on reflections. So we just wait for them to see the light again." And for the first time, both twins fell asleep, not as day and night, not as right and wrong, but as two of finally learning to breathe together. The day of the farewell exhibition arrived. the last event of the school year, where the best project were chosen to inspire the next batch of students. The auditorium buzzed with energy. Banners hung proudly on the walls, and a faint scent of flowers filled the air. Soul stood backstage, adjusting the microphone with slightly trembling hands. She looked at Luna, who was reviewing her notes one last time, her calm presence grounding the moment. "You ready?" Luna asked softly. Soul exhaled, smiling. "For once in my life, I think I am." When their names were announced, Luna and Soul, the power unity, the applause that followed wasn't just noise. It was history coming full circle. They walked onto the stage together, step in sync, the light catching their faces like a mirror split in two, one golden, one bronze, both shining. Luna began the presentation, her voice gentle but strong. "This project started as a science experiment," she said, her words floating clearly across the room. "But what it taught us went far beyond data or diagrams." So click to the next slide, a photograph of them working late in the classroom, papers everywhere, faces tired but smiling. "When you're forced to work with someone different from you," Soul continued, "you don't just learn how to cooperate. You learn how to listen, not to the words, but to what's behind them." The audience leaned in, silent. Luna added, "We thought we were opposites, light and dark, calm and fire. But we realized that balance isn't about sameness. It's about harmony." As their slideshow continued, soft background music played, piano notes echoing like heartbeats. Each image told a story. The fights, the silence, the laughter, the rain, the apology. Soul paused before the final slide. A photo of the trophy sitting on their window ledge, sunlight spilling over it. She smiled faintly. This trophy isn't just a prize. It's a reminder that winning means nothing if it costs connection. A soft murmur swept through the audience. Teachers nodded. Parents exchanged glances. Luna closed with a smile. The real project wasn't on paper. It was in us, learning that teamwork doesn't just build experiments. It rebuilds people. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then thunderous applause. But this time, neither twin looked at the crowd. They looked at each other, eyes shining with something truer than victory. Later that evening, the campus was quiet. The sun dipped low, washing everything in honey gold light. The echoes of applause were long gone, replaced by the sound of birds returning home. Soul and Luna sat on their favorite bench under the old oak tree, the same place where they used to argue about who was right. Now they didn't need to. The silence between them wasn't sharp anymore. It was soft. Soul leaned back, stretching. "You know," she said with a tired laugh, "for someone who once said she hated group work, I think I kind of like it now." Luna smiled, her gaze on the horizon. "That's because you finally stopped seeing it as sharing control. It's sharing purpose." Soul nodded slowly, letting the words sink in. "Maybe that's the real science we learned, human chemistry." Luna chuckled. "Maybe." For a while, they said nothing, just watching the sunset, the colors melting into each other like watercolors. After a moment, Soul spoke again, her tone soft but sure. "You know what I realized today?" "What?" Luna asked. "That we weren't just partners in a project. We were mirrors. You reflected who I could be if I stopped fighting myself." Luna's eyes shimmered. "And you showed me that being kind doesn't mean staying silent. Sometimes love looks like confrontation when it's honest." The wind brushed through their hair. The world felt perfectly still. Then Luna reached down, picking up the small trophy from the bench. She traced a finger over the engraved words, "Regional Fair winners." "Do you think we should keep it?" she asked quietly. Soul smiled, shaking her head. "Let's give it to Mrs. Silva. She believed in us when we didn't believe in each other." They both laughed softly, realizing how far they'd come. From two girls fighting over a project, to two sisters who finally understood the meaning of working with someone, not against them. The sky dimmed, stars beginning to flicker faintly. Luna rested her head on Soul's shoulder. "We'll be okay, right?" Soul smiled. "We already are." And as the last light faded, their reflections merged in the dim glow of the trophy between them. Not as day and night anymore, but as something whole. The camera would fade slowly, lingering on the golden horizon, the distant laughter of children, and the small shimmer of the trophy, a symbol not of success, but of growth. And the narrator's final line would echo softly over the fading scene. They shared the same blood, but not the same heart. Yet in the end, they learned the strongest hearts are the ones that learn to beat together. Fade out.